Welcome to the deep dive. The world we live in today feels like a whirlwind of constantly evolving threats.
It really does.
Everything from these sort of silent, pervasive digital attacks to, well, pretty brazen state-sponsored espionage. It feels like we're constantly trying to catch up, doesn't it?
Yeah, always on the back foot, trying to figure out what's next.
So let's unpack this a bit. We're talking about a world where threats aren't just changing, they feel like they're intensifying, like at an unprecedented rate. What's really at stake here for Canadians and, well, for you listening?
That's the core question, isn't it?
Today, we're going deep. We've got this dense stack of sources, a major public report from CSIS, some crucial insights into Canadian privacy law, the national cybersecurity strategy. Our mission really is to give you a shortcut.
Kind of cut through the noise.
Exactly. A clear path to understanding how everything from, say, facial recognition algorithms to these really sophisticated cyber attacks by foreign powers, how they shape your daily life and, our national safety.
And we've pulled together a lot. Government reports, legal analyses, intelligence assessments to try and paint that picture.
Okay, let's dive in. So CSIS just hit 40 years, right? 1984 to 2024. Looking back, the evolution of threats is it's stark.
Oh, absolutely stark. Think about the Cold War. It was, relatively speaking, more predictable.
Right, espionage was the main game.
Yeah, CSIS was heavily focused. Like, we're talking around 80% of their resources on counterintelligence, only maybe 20% on counterterrorism. It was a much more binary world.
Us versus them.
Pretty much. But then the Soviet Union collapses, and everything just becomes far more complex, more volatile. By 1993, after things like the First World Trade Center bombing, CSIS had already shifted its resources pretty
Oh,
dramatically.
how much of a shift?
It was down to about 56% counterintelligence and up to 44% counterterrorism. So a really rapid shift reflecting these new global realities.
And now it seems like those lines, those categories, they've just dissolved. CSIS today talks about this quadruple whammy.
That's the term they use, yeah. Espionage, foreign interference, terrorism, and sabotage.
What makes that combination so uniquely challenging today? And how do these things, connect?
Well, it's a really powerful question because the sources we looked at are, frankly, unequivocal on this. You have intelligence agencies from the US, UK, and Canada all basically saying the same thing. Something like, never in our combined histories have we faced threats of such magnitude simultaneously. It's the sheer breadth, but also the interconnectedness. That's the whammy part.
So not just more threats, but they're all happening at once and maybe feeding off each other.
Exactly. And often using the same digital tools, the same vulnerabilities.
Okay, so this isn't just some generic threat environment. It feels targeted. Let's unpack who's driving this quadruple whammy and maybe what their playbooks look like. Starting with China, the PRC.
Right. When we look at the People's Republic of China, the reports talk about pervasive and highly sophisticated cyber operations. It's not just traditional spying anymore. It's intellectual property theft on a massive scale. It's malign influence campaigns, trying to shape opinion or policy here. And it's transnational repression, targeting critics or certain communities within Canada.
Wow. Any specific examples?
Yeah, the reports mentioned that in the last 4 years alone, over 20 Canadian government networks have apparently been compromised. They target officials like members of the Interparliamentary Alliance on China, IPAC,
Okay.
and they relentlessly focus on our innovation ecosystem. They want to advance their own economic and military interests, specifically in areas they call future industries.
Like what?
Things like humanoid robots, quantum computers, 6G technology, stuff like that. They're playing a long game.
So that's China's strategic cyber approach, but the sources point to Russia using a different, though maybe equally concerning, playbook. What's Moscow's primary objective here in Canada? How are they trying to destabilize things?
Russia's cyber program seems distinctly focused on destabilization and espionage. They target Canadian government, military, the private sector, and definitely critical infrastructure.
We saw that with SolarWinds, didn't we?
Exactly. The SolarWinds compromise back in 2020 was a classic example. A really sophisticated supply chain attack that quietly hit thousands of organizations globally, including governments here. It just shows the ripple effect, right?
Yeah, one vulnerability spreads everywhere.
And it's not just state actors. There are these pro-Russia non-state groups, maybe with links back to the government, maybe not, who are actively trying to influence Canadian foreign policy.
How?
We've seen disruptive DDoS attacks, distributed denial of service against Canadian government websites, often timed with, say, high-profile visits like the Ukrainian PM's visit in April 2023. or attacks on Quebec government sites later that year.
So disruption.
Disruption, and maybe worse. There are even reports hinting at potential sabotage operations, possibly using incendiary devices both in Canada and Europe, and of course, disinformation, loads of it, often amplified by AI now.
It's a truly global picture. The sources also mention Iran.
Yeah, Iran's also a key player. Expanding disruptive cyber attacks beyond just the Middle East, tracking opponents online, pursuing regional power plays that can spill over.
There was that alleged murder-for-hire plot in the U.S. involving Canadians.
Exactly. And Canada recently designated the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, as a terrorist entity. So the tensions are high.
And it doesn't stop there. There's foreign interference mentioned from other states, too.
Right. The reports point to India, where foreign interference is a stated concern, particularly around the Khalistan movement here in Canada.
The Niger killing investigation touches on this, doesn't it?
It does. The ongoing investigation into Hardeep Singh Niger's killing and RCMP statements about potential links between agents of the Indian government and criminal networks here definitely highlights this concern.
Okay. And anyone else?
Pakistan is also cited for foreign interference in federal and provincial elections, and also transnational repression against dissidents living in Canada.
Okay, so if I'm listening to this, the big takeaway isn't just more threats. It feels like the lines are blurring. Between a nation-state attacking us, or maybe a cyber criminal group, or even a radicalized individual, have those lines just fundamentally broken down? Is that the new reality?
I think that's absolutely the new reality. The core insight is that fluidity. You can't just neatly box these actors anymore. They intersect, they use the same digital tools sometimes. It makes defense incredibly complex.
It requires a much more integrated response, I guess.
Definitely. And this blurring applies to domestic threats, too, which are also intensifying.
You mean violent extremism, both religiously and ideologically motivated?
Exactly that. Religiously motivated violent extremism, RMVE, still draws inspiration from conflicts in the Middle East, groups like Daesh. We've seen arrests just this year, 2024.
Like those individuals planning attacks in Toronto and New York?
Yes, the Eldidi brothers planning a mass casualty attack in Toronto, reportedly. And Mohammed Shahzeb Khan allegedly planning an attack against Jewish communities in New York. These plots were thankfully disrupted.
But the ideological side is growing fast.
That's what's really concerning, yes. Ideologically motivated violent extremism, or IMVE. The reports say it now makes up roughly 50% of CSIS's counterterrorism investigations. That's a huge jump since 2014.
What kind of ideologies are we talking about?
It's often described as hybrid ideologies, pulling from different places. And there's a really worrying rise of what are called accelerationist and occult networks, AONs.
And they target young people.
Incredibly young. We're talking 8 to 17 years old, sometimes. On platforms, kids use Discord, Telegram, even Roblox and Minecraft.
Wow. That's chilling.
It is. And this sheer proliferation of diverse, overlapping threats, state actors, criminals, extremists, all leveraging digital tools, just makes the whole challenge of national security incredibly complex.
Yeah, that complexity really snaps into focus when we talk about the digital frontier itself. Our sources are detailing a sharp increase in cyber incidents. They're targeting essential services, trying to influence public opinion through these coordinated campaigns. It sounds like critical infrastructure is definitely in the crosshairs.
It's a stark reality, unfortunately. State adversaries are actively trying to cause disruption. That means denying service, deleting data, leaking sensitive information, maybe even manipulating industrial control systems.
So power grids, water systems, that kind of thing.
Potentially, yes. The assessment is that critical infrastructure is very likely considered a legitimate target for cyber sabotage if a military conflict were to break out.
And it's not just states doing this?
No, not at all. The cybercrime ecosystem is absolutely thriving globally.
This cybercrime as a service model, CANES, you mentioned?
Exactly. It's like this booming dark web marketplace.
Yeah.
Criminals can essentially rent sophisticated tools and expertise.
Like what?
Malware as a service, ransomware as a service, getting access to already compromised networks, access as a service, phishing kits, DDoS attacks for hire. It really lowers the barrier to entry. Anyone can launch a major attack almost.
So more criminals, more easily.
Precisely. These specialized services empower more people to get into cybercrime. Remember Genesis Market, that big marketplace for stolen logins and stuff? It was disrupted in April 2023, but it's just one example.
And ransomware is still the top threat here.
It remains the top cybercrime threat to Canada's critical infrastructure, yes.
Yeah.
And it's getting worse, increasing in scope, frequency, and sophistication. It can totally immobilize operations, destroy data.
And impact real life, like that Suncor Energy incident.
Yeah, the Suncor incident in June 2023 hit Petro-Canada. It affected payments, car washes, loyalty points. It showed how cyber attacks can disrupt physical safety and just daily conveniences for everyone.
Okay, so this cybercrime ecosystem is already a massive challenge, but then you add AI into the mix. It sounds like pouring rocket fuel on the fire.
That's a good analogy. AI is transforming these threats in ways we're still trying to get our heads around. It definitely lowers the barriers even further for cybercriminals. It helps make attacks higher quality, bigger scale, more precise. Think about social engineering tricking people. AI can create incredibly realistic deepfakes or craft personalized phishing emails that are grammatically perfect and tailored to you, much harder to spot.
That email that looks almost real, but now it's perfect.
Exactly. Imagine that, but infinitely better, powered by AI. And for foreign influence campaigns online, AI is a game changer. Generating disinformation, fake news websites that look legit, automating armies of social media bots.
And states are using this.
Oh yeah. Countries like China, Russia, Iran, even Israel, they're all reportedly using AI in their influence operations already.
So AI amplifies the threats against us, but what about AI being used to collect information about us? Maybe legally, but still, invasively. This feels like it connects to that legal case in Alberta, Clearview AI.
It absolutely does. The Clearview AI case is fascinating. Their whole business model was scraping facial images from public websites, social media, news sites, whatever, to build this huge biometric facial recognition database.
And they sold access to law enforcement.
That was the plan, yeah. But the conflict arose because Alberta has its own privacy law, PIPA, the Personal Information Protection Act. And PIPA generally requires consent to collect personal info.
So Clearview needed consent for every photo they scraped.
Well, that was the Alberta Privacy Commissioner's interpretation. They argued that images scraped from the internet are not publicly available in the very specific, narrow way PIPA defines that term. So yes, under that view, consent was required.
But the court didn't fully agree. It was more nuanced.
Very nuanced. The court did agree with the commissioner on one key point. Clearview's purpose for collecting all that data wasn't reasonable, which is a basic requirement under PIPA anyway. So Clearview lost on that front.
Got it.
But the court also looked at the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, specifically Section 2B, Freedom of Expression. And they found the commissioner's interpretation of PIPA's consent rule was overbroad.
Overbroad, how?
Because if you applied that strict consent rule, it wouldn't just stop Clearview. It would arguably capture legitimate web indexing by search engines we all use, like Google.
So Google would need consent for every image it indexes from a public website in Alberta?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
That was the court's concern. That reading of the law was too broad and could stifle legitimate, even beneficial, expressive activity online, like how search engines work. It actually paralleled a Supreme Court case involving union video recording.
So the court is pointing out this real tension, isn't it, between wanting strong privacy protection, but also dealing with the reality of how the internet actually functions.
Exactly. It really puts the spotlight on that critical challenge.
Yeah.
How do we define publicly available in this digital age? How do we protect privacy without accidentally shutting down valuable expression or basic internet tools?
That feels like a huge question with no easy answers. And meanwhile, protecting against this flood of cyber threats from states, criminals, AI-powered attacks, it must feel overwhelming, especially if you're running a business.
It absolutely can be overwhelming. Staying ahead requires constant learning, adaptation, and frankly, having the right security tools and strategies in place.
Yeah, and just finding the right tools and partners can be a huge task in itself, can it? Which is why, we're grateful for the support of www.cisomarketplace.com. They really act as a valuable resource, connecting organizations that need help with the security solutions out there, helps cut through the noise.
Having a curated marketplace like that, focusing specifically on cybersecurity solutions, can definitely help organizations navigate this complex landscape and find what they actually need.
So, given these huge, varied threats, how is Canada responding? We know CSIS itself is changing.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
CSIS is pushing this one mission, one CSIS strategy. The big emphasis is on becoming much more digital and data-driven in their intelligence work.
What does that mean in practice?
It means investing in new tools,
Yeah.
operationalizing ways to mitigate digital security risks for their own operations.
Yeah.
There's a big project called Data-Fueled Intelligence to sort of consolidate data and boost analysis capability.
Are they using AI?
They are running AI pilot programs, apparently consistent with the broader Government of Canada guiding principles on AI use. And they have these elite computer network exploitation teams, CNE teams.
Which raises that tricky question, doesn't it? How does an intelligence agency balance using these powerful new tools, like AI for surveillance or data crunching, with ethical considerations and privacy rights?
That is the crucial balancing act, absolutely. And it's a constant challenge for agencies and oversight bodies alike.
Okay, so CSIS is modernizing internally. What about Canada's broader cyber defenses, the national strategy?
Right. The National Cybersecurity Strategy kicked off some important things back in 2018. It led to establishing the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, the Cyber Centre, and also the National Cybercrime Coordination Centre, the NC3.
And their job is?
Broadly, it's detecting and disrupting cyber threats, boosting our capacity to fight cybercrime, and making critical systems tougher, more resilient. They also do a lot on public awareness.
Like the Get Cyber Safe campaign.
It's exactly, promoting basic cyber hygiene. And they publish useful guidance, like reports on AI risks, large language models, misinformation, trying to keep everyone informed.
Where does CSIS fit into that broader picture?
CSIS focuses specifically on the national security cyber threats, the espionage, the foreign interference, the terrorism links online. They investigate, try to thwart malicious actors, and provide intelligence assessments to government and partners.
And encryption plays a role in protecting things.
A huge role. Strong encryption is vital for safeguarding government operations, but also all that critical infrastructure we talked about, telcos, transport, energy, finance. It's fundamental. Canada, interestingly, takes a more moderate stance on forcing companies to decrypt data, what's called lawful access, compared to allies like the US, UK, or Australia.
Right, they haven't passed laws compelling decryption in the same way.
Not domestically, no.
This all sounds like way too much for any single agency or even just the government to handle alone. It must require collaboration.
That's absolutely the key insight now. National security isn't just a government job anymore. It has to be a collective effort. Those blurred lines between threats demand a really collaborative defense.
So CSIS is building partnerships.
Actively.
Yeah.
Across the board with our Five Eyes allies, of course,
Mm.
but also with provincial, territorial, municipal governments here in Canada, Indigenous organizations, civil society groups, academics, and critically, the private sector.
Who in the private sector?
Groups like the Business Council of Canada, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. CSIS provides resiliency briefings, shares threat information, trying to help partners recognize the signs, understand the risks they face.
And on the front lines, people coming into the country or working for the government, there are screening programs.
Yes, those are vital too. The Immigration and Citizenship Security Screening ICS and the Government Security Screening GSS programs. The volumes are immense.
How immense.
In 2024, CSIS reportedly got over 500,000 referrals, 538,100 for immigration screening, and another 138,000 or so for government security clearances.
Wow, that must create bottlenecks.
Yeah. It definitely creates pressures and delays, which can be frustrating for people. But CSIS emphasizes they maintain vigilance to ensure safety despite the volume.
Okay, so this whole picture is one of constant motion, isn't it? Adapting to threats, new laws coming in.
Yeah, like Bill C-70, the Act on Countering Foreign Interference. That significantly amends the CSIS Act, gives them new authorities like single-use warrants, changes to how they can handle data sets.
And there's oversight to make sure these powers are used properly.
Yes. External review and oversight are crucial. We have NSICOP, the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians, and NSIRA, the National Security and Intelligence Review Agency. NSIRA actually saw a 200% jump in complaints in 2024. Mostly related to those immigration screening delays we talked about.
It really underscores that vigilance isn't just for the spies anymore, is it? It's for all of us, organizations, individuals. And navigating this constantly shifting landscape, keeping your security posture up to date, it requires access to the best tools and resources, which, again, is where having a central place to find vetted solutions helps. So checking out www.cisomarketplace.com could be a really practical step for organizations trying to stay ahead.
Finding trusted partners and effective tools is definitely key in this environment. #outro.
So we've really journeyed through a security landscape that's just transformed, haven't we?
We certainly have. It's complex.
From looking back at CSIS's 40 years, seeing the rise of state-sponsored espionage and interference, China, Russia, others, to this surge in violent extremism, both RMVE and IMVE.
And that explosion in cybercrime, now being supercharged by AI, it's a multifaceted challenge, no doubt.
But we've also seen Canada's response taking shape, modernizing intelligence, trying to bolster cyber defenses nationally, forging these really critical partnerships across society.
And I think the key takeaway for you listening is just how interconnected national security and your own individual security are now, especially in the digital age.
Yeah, what happens in cyberspace or in geopolitics, it doesn't stay remote.
Yeah.
It affects your privacy, your safety, maybe even your wallet.
Right. So critical thinking about what you see online, about who might be behind information, and just a continuous need for vigilance and adaptation. It's more important than ever for everyone.
Absolutely. And that leaves us with maybe a final provocative thought to chew on.
Okay.
Considering how fast AI is advancing and how sophisticated these threat actors are becoming, how might our basic understanding of concepts like publicly available information or even consent need to fundamentally shift in, say, the next 5 years? How do we truly protect privacy without completely stifling innovation or that open exchange of information the internet was built on?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It gets right to the heart of our digital future.
It really does. Well, we hope this deep dive has given you a clearer map of the challenges and the responses shaping Canada's security today.
Yeah, hopefully some useful context.
We encourage you to reflect on your own digital habits, maybe your organization's security posture. Stay informed and stay secure.